Hello and welcome along to Clare FM's Sideline View. It's Derek Lynch with you for the next hour. Coming up on the show, we look ahead to Clare's Munster football semi-final showdown with Kerry and look back on a busy week of under-20 action. We'll preview what's ahead for Clare's handballers this weekend, look ahead to a busy few days of local soccer. We'll hear about the Mick Egan road race in Doonbeg, and Alan Troy will have Greyhound Focus too. Now, after the hurlers got their championship campaign underway last weekend, this time it's the turn of the footballers, and none bigger than the All-Ireland champions to come to Zimmer Biomet Park Isog on Saturday afternoon in the Munster semi-final. Paddy Carmody and Kieran Madigan with us on the line to look ahead to that game. And before we do that, just for anyone that hasn't heard the team as of yet, a couple of positional switches maybe going to be employed by the lads on Sunday, but I suppose the big headline news is, or Saturday I should say, the big headline news, no Dermot Coughlin. Tristan O'Callaghan is between the sticks. Gavin Murray is at wing forward. We have Ickham at 11. Brian Mack partner by Killian Brennan at midfield. Fionn Kelleher at wing back. First of all, Kieran, what have you made of it?
I suppose I'd made of it that we're definitely going to try and stop the Kerry goal threat anyway. That looks to be the plan there, because it's a more defensive lineup than we would have played throughout the league. We've obviously got our inside three of Mark McInerney, Owen Cleary and Aaron Griffin, but I suppose a half forward line, if you call it that, of Conor Meany, Ickham and Gavin Murray, they would be traditionally a lot more defensive, and you'd worry a little bit about from creativity point of view. Obviously Dermot Coughlin's a massive loss, and it's about getting quality ball into that inside three. Hopefully we'll be able to do it, but you would certainly think if we, in some ways it's, you said to me earlier that it's like a second half back line, and obviously we're going to try and cut out the supply to that lethal Kerry inside three. So big work rate required from everyone involved. But we went down to Killarney last year with a game plan to go one-on-one with them, and that didn't work. So obviously, we've come up with a new system for this game, and we had been saying that we conceded probably too much throughout the league. So you credit the management. They're definitely going to go about this in a different way and try and cut out that Kerry goal threat. And
Paddy, I was listening to an interview with Paul Madden during the week, and he made an interesting point that it being the second year of the new rules, I don't know how long these rules have to actually go before we stop calling them the new rules, but anyway, the second year of the new rules, and he felt that coaches up and down the country were getting more au fait with them, maybe getting more au fait with ways to set up and ways to exploit. And just looking at that team, is this maybe an indication of the management finding a way to go a little bit more defensive while still keeping the tree up?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I agree with Kieran there. I think our middle eight, our half back line, our half forward line, realistically, all bar Gavin Murray could comfortably play in both, and Gavin Murray has a good engine. So I'd be expecting our three half forwards and three in the half back line. I don't think I think 3 or 4 of them won't finish the game. I think we're going to ask a lot out of them. We're going to ask them for a huge workload on Saturday inside Cusick Park, as you said, to try and outwork their own counterparts and try and get on the ball as much as possible, like we are. And part of me is kind of happy to see the team the way it is, although some of the personnel maybe has surprised us a little bit. But the game was over after 10 minutes last year, and the same a couple of years ago down on the Gaelic ground. So you'd hope that the lads have learned the lessons of previous years and that we're going out there, and that I know the under-20s, we'll probably talk about it later on, there was a good bit in it in the end, but in around half time we were thereabouts. So that's where you want to be. You don't want this game over, especially at home after 15 or 20 minutes. We don't want to do something stupid here, and it's not just maybe mark or double mark David Clifford, but it's also putting pressure on the Kerry midfield that they're not, they don't have a load of time to pick out David Clifford from distance. So that's why I'd be thinking we're looking at a very hard working middle eight, and I'd imagine there'll be lads off the bench there from 45 minutes onwards, to keep the energy up, to keep the pressure on. We do tend to work better as a running team. And then try and find the 3 lads up front, which looks like it'll be Aaron Griffin, Owen Cleary and Mark McInerney, and they're all in good form this year. There are 3 top scorers. They really, really should be confident. And there's part of me that feels this team is being set up nicely to have if you are to have a crack at Kerry in your back door, right, to me he looks to be going about it the right way.
And I suppose, Kerry, it goes without saying, though, it is a day where every single thing will have to go right for Clare, and maybe 50 or 60% of things go wrong for Kerry, maybe. But I suppose the use of possession, like if we are turning them over, if the weight of bodies behind is telling, I suppose that transition, that kicking game, getting into the front three, how they'll set up, how close to the halfway line will an Owen Cleary or an Aaron Griffin come to be an outball, all that will come into it.
Yeah, well, there's as Paddy rightly said, there's going to be huge work rate expected from everyone that takes the field tomorrow, and the inside three, are going to have to work just as hard, because there will be times that we're going to have to hit them with direct ball. For the work rate that's involved, they're not going to be able to run with the ball every time, and they're going to have to be out in front to win their own ball. But if they end up in a situation inside and it's 3-on-3, and we can get ball into them, I would have every faith in all those 3 lads inside winning their own ball. And it's all about taking our opportunities. I've no doubt that we'll create plenty of chances, but we're going to have to take our fair share of them. And those inside 3 have been doing that all year and putting up big scores. The 3 of them are in the top 6 top scorers in Division 3. Now, look, there's a massive difference going from Division 3 up against the All-Ireland champions and probably the favourites to win it again. But look, this is in a lot of ways a free shot for us, and we just have to go out there, work as hard as we can, force turnovers, and if we can get our quality forwards on the ball, you would imagine that we can certainly give Kerry something to think about, because Kerry are down a few players as well. Obviously, look at the players that are coming in are just as good, but they've no Gavin White, Dylan Gainey's not in the 26, Brian O'Beglock is not there, and obviously their main goalkeeper Shane Ryan isn't there either. So they're obviously bringing in a few new players. Keith Evans has had a great league for them, and Killian Trent, we saw him the day of the McGrath Cup as well. He's a serious talent. But Armin Heinrich is actually starting to wing back as well, another very, very good player. So they're bringing in quality players, but these players will be inexperienced in championship football as well, and it's up to us to kind of hit the game at 100 miles an hour and certainly try and give them something to think about as well.
And also, Paddy, I suppose vital that Killian Ryan is back and wearing the number 6 jersey, because I think everybody would admit it's been a problem position all year. We haven't really nailed down a 6 outside of, no doubt Killian was the plan for that. So like to have his kind of steadying influence back there, and you talk about experience, like that's a massive boost.
Yeah, and he's our captain as well. It's kind of probably been a disappointing campaign for him, being named captain at the start of the year and getting very few minutes due to injuries, and having Brindy beside him as well in the half back line. I'm sure the 2 of them will be, rubbing their lips. They'll be delighted. It'll be a big day for them. Hopefully there's a big Clare crowd in to drive them on. But I think that's what we need. As I said, we need hard runners here throughout the day. Hopefully the conditions are good. And like you look at that half back line that we have, and you throw into it our full back line. Every one of them are well capable of running hard with the ball, along with our half-forward line. So, it looks like we're going out to spoil them in midfield, and maybe Brian McNamara can have a bit of joy getting forward. But I really think we're going to see a running game here, try and keep possession at all times. While Dermot Coughlin will be, he's going to be a huge, huge loss. He would complement that beautifully if he was there. But we look to be filling up with very athletic players, and I can see. I think we're all alluding to it. We're going to put a lot of hope on the 3 lads up front, to kick us some scores, and the rest of the team kind of playing a different kind of game, trying to keep Kerry at bay, and feed them when they can. So. You'd have to be optimistic. I think it's a big day for us. We've had an up and down league campaign. Our under 20s did well. 17 is still going. At home, it'd be nice if we could. I know we're probably going into the Tailteann Cup after this, but the last thing we want here, lads, is another hiding. I mentioned already, if this game is over after 10 or 15 minutes, that'll be the worst case scenario. You wouldn't mind if Kerry tagged on a few scores towards the end of the game, where we pushed them for an hour. But I think it's a big day for us, big day for the new management team, and really, we can't really say it too lightly, but Kerry are missing, 8 or 9 of their starting 15 from last year's All Ireland. They have quality players, but if we can't rattle them for an hour here on Saturday, it wouldn't be good for the team going forward. I don't think, So it'd be nice put in a good performance on Saturday, see where we are after it, and at least have confidence going into the Tailteann Cup afterwards.
And Kieran, is that a realistic target from a Clare perspective? Like, bring it into the last quarter and make Kerry go and win the game?
Yeah, I think it is. We have to try and be still in the game going into the last 10 or 15 minutes because, like last year, Paddy rightly said, like the game was over after 10 minutes. They hit us for goals early, and Seanie O'Shea was pulling the strings and popping lovely passes in front of David Clifford. Seanie O'Shea is not there this weekend, and that's a plus for us. But they do have Paddy Clifford back, who they didn't have against us last year. So I suppose it's not much weaker in that sense. But yeah, like we have to target being still into the game going into the final quarter. And if we are, we're capable of rattling them. We're not getting carried away saying that we're going to win the game, but we gave them a fair battle in Cusack Park there 2 years ago in that Munster final. And, we definitely have a good home record against them. A couple of times we've come up against them and we've really given them something to think about. So, but the problem is Kerry are coming after that league final defeat where they would have got plenty of criticism blown their own county, and they're coming out now with a point to prove. And they've also, the thing about when you've got new players in the team, they're all trying to earn a jersey going forward as well. So, they're going to be out to impress. But look, we just have to take care of our own business. We've got a lot of experienced players in our panel, and I think it's a day to. There's nothing to lose. There's no big expectations on them. You're going out against the best team in the country. You want to show what you're made of. You want to show that you're capable of living with these guys, and show them respect, but don't show them any fear. And go out and tear into them. And I certainly think that if we can get enough ball around the middle third, because that's where we struggle, I suppose, with the 20s. If we can get our hands on enough ball around that middle third, we're going to have plenty of bodies there with the way the team is set up. And if we have plenty of athletic players, good ball carriers, and they're certainly capable of creating the chances for the inside three. But defensively, we're going to have to give our best display of the year. We've spoken all year. We have conceded too much in Division 3. We're now up against the best team in the country, and obviously we are setting up a little bit more defensively. So hopefully, that we can keep the goal threat to a minimum, and if we can do that, I think we'll take the game into the later stages.
Yeah, fantastic afternoon ahead for all football people, and we'd encourage them all to get into Páirc Uí Sóg as well, and we hope the weather won't need you to wear your new Pella Pobble and Clare hats if you haven't been caught for a new beanie just yet. Contact Seamus Hayes or Joe Gary or any of those. They look after you. All funds going towards Clare football, right down to development squads as well. Paddy, speaking of down along the grades, I guess in the under-20 during the week, a chastening enough defeat in the second half from a Clare point of view. 8-6 down at half time, having played with quite a strong breeze, and certainly no doubt about it in terms of the better team in the second half. But from an overall campaign for the under-20s, like 6 games played, unbeaten in 4 of them, 3 wins, the draw, and I suppose a disappointing night thrown in there against Waterford as well. But ultimately, are we looking at a squad that will have produced maybe 6, 7, 8 senior stars for the next couple of years?
I'd hope so. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of lads that had good campaigns and put their hands up. For Paul Madden to bring him in next winter and have a look, and who's to say, like, why not take 3 or 4 of them and maybe throw them in? If it's working during the Tailteann Cup, if they're in form now and if they continue it, maybe. Why not have a look at them in the senior straight away? While the form is good. They'll probably look back. I think we all kind of predicted how that Kerry game was going to go. We made a decent enough start. We were solid. But to me, our Achilles heel was our panel. We really only worked off 15 or 16 players maybe for the duration. It was nice that they all got plenty games and we had good results. The 2 stingers were Cork. We did everything but beat Cork, back in Quilty that evening. We should have beaten them. But I just felt that we were out of gas. we couldn't shake enough of space to get the last couple of shots off back in Quilty and get a winner that evening. And then the sucker punch that followed with Waterford, like it completely took the wind out of the season. But what I liked about it this year compared to other years, I thought we were really solid at the back. We were really good defensively, and you have to give big credit to Dermot Coughlin and the lads for that, because when you have a team, it's not like you've had them for 3 or 4 years. They got them towards the end of last year, and they've really, really good, solid, understandable defensive unit. Whereas in the last couple of years, the under-20, while we might have been scoring okay, we looked like we could have been pulled apart at any stage. So I think they look back on it with a little bit of regret, which is good. There really shouldn't be at this stage. We think with everything that we're doing in the county with underage football, we really should be closing the gap to Cork and Kerry. I think we've shown that. And I think if our panel was a bit deeper in the under-20 this year, if we could have called on players from 17, 18, 19 and 20 on the panel to come in and to continue on the energy levels required and the standards required, we could have pushed Kerry even further. So all in all, I think for the under-20s, it's been a very positive year. And definitely we saw, that half forward line, the midfield definitely, put their hands up to take note. They've made their mark in the county now at that under-20 level, and the future for a good crop of that group is very good.
Would you go along with all that, Kieran?
Yeah, definitely. I think Paddy summed it up very well there. Defensively, throughout the whole campaign, I thought we were excellent. We maybe struggled a little bit in the Waterford game, and definitely think tiredness caught up with us in the Kerry game. But overall, a very, very successful campaign. I think the format of this competition is brilliant. It's these players getting 6 championship games is fantastic. I do agree that that we didn't really make use of the panel probably enough. The starting 15 was pretty much nailed on, and definitely tiredness caught up with us in the end. But I'd be very optimistic about this group going forward. I was very, very impressed with some of the players now. Like Diarmaid Boyle is a player that I was so impressed with throughout the campaign. But I won't go through the whole defence, but they were very, very impressive. And players like Donegal Dwyer stepping up from minor, fantastic. But as far as I know, there's only 2 the team overage next year in Evan Cahill and Derek Culligan. And if that's the case, if you've 13 of your starting 15 available again next year, that's very, very positive after the campaign we're after having. And, why we will have a little bit of regret about that Cork game, the fact the Clare teams in the past would have thrown in the towel when Cork hit them for that 1-2 or 1-3 at the start of the second half. But this group didn't. They showed great belief. They came back at Cork again and took the lead again going into the final few minutes. And that's great. Great credit due to the management to instill that belief in the team. And there's so many leaders on that team that you can see them making calls themselves on the field. They're taking ownership of it, and that's very, very positive for the group going forward. And you'll be hoping now to see the majority of these teams in action for their clubs throughout the year. We'll all be watching out for them. The majority of them will be playing senior football. A couple of them will be playing intermediate championship. But that's the next step now in their development. And you certainly wouldn't be surprised if 2 or 3 of them made their way into Paul Madden's panel as the rest of the year goes on.
Yeah, I think there was talks of maybe 1 or 2 being brought in on the extended side of it, so that's great for them to get to see the inter-county senior set up. And Paddy will be hoping that under-20 squad next year will be supplemented by a few of Joe Hayes and Claus minors that are out on Monday night. We might talk more about that on Monday, but what a campaign they've been having so far. You talk about drama, the last day out, incredible stuff altogether. They take on Cork now again in their opener, but I suppose outside of anything else, it's guaranteed 3 more games. They'll go to Waterford for the Darrell Darcy final with a chance of silverware. Great if they get it. I don't think anybody will cry too much if they don't. But those 3 games, is that the real success story?
That is, yeah. It's brilliant. As you said, you'd feel sorry for, I know they're nice positions to get these, the under-17, the under-20 management teams, hurling and football, to be fair. They put so much hours into these panels over the winter, picking the panels, developing them over the last number of years. And then you have the possibility of being out after 2 or 3 games, so all that work, a lot of the time you don't see the fruition of it. So, like we saw it in the 20s this year, the lads had a lot of work put into it. as I said, as a team, they look defensively good with some good forwards. It just looked good. As I said already, they're just probably lacking a couple more players on the panel, and it's the same for the minors. And I think it's also worth noting the sound bites as well between Paul Madden, Joe Hayes, and Dermot Coughlin. It does sound like they talk a lot. They're working together. That everybody's going in the same direction. So, well, it's very positive to hear that when you're outside the camp. They all speak highly of each other. They all know what's going on in each other's camp. So, it's three good lads involved, three lads that definitely have the interest of Clare at heart, and three lads that have done a lot already for Clare in their relatively young career. So, yeah, they've three more games. They're going to be tough ones. They've shown some great resilience. That night above in Quilty, the first game at home to Waterford, like that was a tough start to when you get beaten by Waterford at home. That was a tough start to the campaign. So they've rebounded very well. I remember that night they were playing Liam Keane in the full forward line, but he was coming out. He wasn't really staying in there for longer than 5 minutes. But anytime he was in there, it seemed to suit us better, and they seemed to put a bit more work into that and to try and keeping him up there and feeding him. But it's a nice little team there as well, and these three games will be a huge advantage to have in the bank, regardless of where they finish. But, for the team, their morale and team development and personal development, having three extra competitive games is absolutely massive. You don't where Clare footballers are coming from. Like, we're not going out targeting All Irelands and stuff like that, but you always hear the top coaches or the top counties, they don't really care if they win these titles as long as they're competitive. So getting 6 competitive matches like this is great for this group. And again, if I'm right, there's a lot of lads on this minor team that are underage again next year too.
Yeah, I think it's a young enough group. Joe kind of said that was the first night out. So, yeah, we really look forward to that. A big day ahead tomorrow first in the park, and then Monday evening we'll look back on the weekend action on Monday evening's show. But now, Kieran and Paddy, thanks for that.
Not a worry, lads.
Back shortly here on Sideline View. Now, you're welcome back to Sideline View here on Clare FM. Well, it was a week of mixed fortunes for Clare's under-20s and footballers, with late drama in Simple Stadium, seeing Terence Fahy's side beating Tipperary by the minimum. That came thanks to late goals from Daniel Costello and Marco Cleary, before Costello fired over the winning point with the last act of the game. Afterwards, Clare FM's Sil O'Connor spoke with Clare boss Terence Fahy.
We'd be remarkably proud of them, because that's what it is. It is a squad, and it's a unit, and it's an extended panel, and it's hard to get into it. It's hard to get into the squad. It's hard to get into the 20-foot match day 24, and it's hard to get into the team. So when they come on then and they make their contribution, we've seen it in the previous rounds as well. We'd be delighted because should that build spirit, and everybody knows that they're fit enough, well enough, and able enough to contribute. And we've been lucky enough the last 3 rounds to see that in the closing stages of each match. So very proud of them.
We said at half time, we were behind at half time. We said at half time that this was Clare's 3rd game, but it was also their best performance so far.
Yeah, well, we would feel that the graph is going up steadily, and we saw that from rounds 1 to rounds 2, and in the first half today, then in round 3 we created 18 scoring chances, but we didn't take them. Now Tip were equally wasteful, but we were happy enough with the way the lads were going up the gears, and they were very competitive, and it was very even. There was nothing between the teams. Tipperary edged through then, I'd say, in the 3rd quarter. They were clinical enough, and they got another goal, and Mark kept us in the match with a super save. And look, it was the finish that won us the game, and a dramatic finish, and doesn't happen very often, but we'll take it today.
Absolutely. At the closing stages of that game, as you said, Tip had pulled away 2-13 to 13 points. Then we had that great save from Mark, but it looked like it was going to fizzle out. But 2-2 to a single point, we ended up outscoring Tipperary at that end. And as we said, they're the kind of things you dream of, but the players made it happen. You must be delighted with that.
Yeah, well, absolutely. That was the players on the field who drove that, and they were. They weren't settling for it, and they kept driving forward, and there was great leadership there in the last couple of minutes, and there was no wilt for them, and they deserve all the credit this evening.
Absolutely.
We'd be very proud.
Absolutely. Just one more thing, Terence, we had stated during the game itself, that it was very difficult for under-20 managements across the board, right, with Harty Cup in our says, with the senior hurlers and all that. That's why the game was improving. That must have been worth it on the sideline when you saw that grandstand finish.
Yeah, well, every team is if they're lucky enough to stay in the competition, they'll be improving the more time that they get together, the more cohesion and the more time in their bubble. You know, the schools are all finished. We never whinge about, you know, because it's important that our players are competing in Harty Cups and the elite third level and senior level. So that's never a negative. It's a controllable and it's a necessary part. And we'd far rather have the problem of dealing with players who are involved in high level setups, exposed to high level competition, than the opposite. You know, because they're getting exposed and they're learning in those environments, and that's very important for the development of young Clare hurlers.
Absolutely. Well, as a Clare supporter, like many others, to the management and to the team, fantastic moment tonight in Simple Stadium. Well done.
Sil, thanks a million. It was great, yeah.
Yeah, and up next for Clare is a trip to Cork on Wednesday evening, and Clare still need a result to ensure a spot in the final, or indeed a home semi-final. Scoring difference still being a potentially decisive factor there, so lots to look forward to. It was a different story though for the under-20 footballers managed by Dermot Coughlin, who suffered defeat to Kerry in Tralee. The Kingdom dominated the second period to run out comfortable winners there. It brought the curtain down on what was undoubtedly a season of progress for the group, with Dermot telling Clare FM's Joe Garry they'll take a lot from it.
Went away from us there in the second half. You know, they punished us with some unreal scores there. Probably got 2 goals against, you know, looking up breaks, like one was a free. They got the advantage, they scored on the advantage. Another one was well saved by Harry, got the return and passed it to the net. But I thought our lads never gave up. They were fantastic there this evening. They just made a quality outfit in Kerry.
A quality outfit, and we needed probably goals in the first half and we had chances.
Yeah, I suppose, look, we created a great goal chance in the first half, but you know, they created none. They probably created 2 goal chances throughout and finished the 2. Maybe that's the difference, like, you know.
I thought we got 2 goal chances. One that Sean Finnell beat the keeper off the crossbar, another one Michael Kelly, and you need really to convert everything against Kerry.
Yeah, this evening especially, Joe, they needed to win this evening and they didn't, like, but hats off, we made a quality outfit, like, but our lads battle game, 2 points in at half time, albeit there was a strong breeze there, but I thought our structure was good again this evening. You are punished against a quality team, like, you know, you have a turnover here, they will punish you, and you know, they'll have a big say in the rest of the All-Ireland series, I'd say. And
from our own point of view, plenty of talent coming through. We know that these boys have had a traumatic year, but you know, they've always stood together as a very unified group.
Questionably what they went through with Jack there after the Tipperary game, I think it knocked the sail out of any team, but going a 3 or 4 match unbeaten run after that was absolutely tremendous. We had only 3 or 4 starters on the edge there. We just put 10 or 11 lads that are under it again next year, so that was the young Clare 20 team that went out there tonight. We've learned a lot of lessons, you know, all of us, management and players like that. You know, that's the level you have to play to if you want to win Munsters, if you want to compete, if you want to go into All-Ireland quarter-finals, if you want to get to Munster finals. That's the level that's out there, and we're not turning a blind eye to it. We know we've a lot of work to do, but we went out with a young team tonight. I thought they battled gamely for 35 or 40 minutes out there.
That is Clare under-20 football manager Dermot Coughlin there after Wednesday's game in Tralee. Now we are turning our attentions to handball here on Sideline View, where Rooney and Clare Orla Considine is with us to look ahead to a very, very big weekend, a historic one in many ways as well, Orla, coming off the back of a very successful one.
Yeah, it is. It's historic in the fact that our ladies senior doubles pair of Katrina Milan and Leah Minogue are taking part in the senior ladies All-Ireland final. It's a first for Clare, it's a first for those girls, and it's only their second year competing together in the senior grade, and to make it through the semi-finals at the weekend against the Kildare pair, and to now be facing into the wonderful aspect of preparing this week to go up against the All-Ireland and World Champions from Galway of Siani Corrine and Niamh Heffernan is, I suppose, daunting, knowing you'll be the underdogs, but a great challenge to relish, to set up your stall to see where you lie.
It has been some rise through the ranks, that goes without saying.
Yeah, it certainly has for the two girls. Katrina won the intermediate 2 years ago and Leah won it then last year. So for them to be able to cement their places in the senior championship, which isn't easy, coming up the same as any grade and any competition, getting to senior and being able to maintain that senior status on year one is definitely what you're looking for. And then for them to double up this year and to go better than reaching the quarter final last year, so they were in the semi-final at the weekend, and now to be in that final, it's definitely a great achievement and a mark, I suppose, of the rise of the ladies' game.
Yeah, and it marks real progression, as you say, to come up and get to a quarter final, then come back and better it to go to a semi and drive on to a final as well. So there's real momentum with them.
Yeah, no, there definitely is, and the girls are working very hard and get together and training, which I suppose isn't always easy. Leah is based in Clare, Katrina is based in Cork, and trying to get up and down out of Dublin as well too, to train and to get some time in that show court, that glass court, which can be difficult at times to play in, with the loss of sight of ball at times that players talk about inside in the alley, and the different speeds of playing. I suppose in Croke Park, what a lot of players find is that the ball travels so fast and moving compared to, I suppose, our club alleys all over the country, which will be just that little bit colder. So it's definitely a novel, and to be part of that All-Ireland final day is a great achievement for the two girls.
And maybe that's something we don't give enough credit to, the fact of the effort they go to meet up for a session, because I suppose the doubles dynamic means that you can be doing your own little bit away or whatever, but it's your partner's dynamic, it's their little intricacies that you need to be in tune with.
Oh, it certainly is, because the handball alley is a 40 by 20 court, and you need to have that level of communication and that level of trust in your opponent as well too, to know like when to get, when you're going for the ball, when it's your ball, and when it's theirs, and I suppose to know the qualities of each other as to what your attributes are, and whether you're like your kill shots or your roof shots, or whether it's to go for that defensive play, and to trust one another, and to know when is the right time and left and right side of the court. So it's not easy for them, and travelling around the place and trying to meet up, and sometimes that's the difficulty, and it's not always the best singles players that will make up the strongest doubles duo, because it is that combination play that's so important.
We wish them the very best of luck in that, but there's lots more banner interest this weekend.
Yeah, it's going to be a busy weekend, Saturday and Sunday. Last time out with the singles All-Ireland finals, we had the unique success of winning the boys and the men's and the girls minor championships, and we're in with a shout with doing the same this coming weekend, reaching the finals of both the minor ladies doubles and the minor men's doubles. So Clare Minogue and Sean Considine were the singles champions, and they're pairing up now with Isabel McInerney from Tuna in the girls and Owen Shanahan of Kilkishen in the men's, and both of them defeated Tyrone opposition at the weekend, and will now go out to face Galway and Wexford opposition, and they'll play one game after the other in the show court on Sunday. So that's hopefully putting a historic double together. And also on Sunday, the junior men's, the Tuamgraney pairing of Shawnee Doyle and Tiernan Slattery who defeated Tyrone in the semi-final, will come up against Kilkenny in their All-Ireland final. They had a massive battle against Tyrone at the weekend, with a game lasting 2 hours, going all the way to a tie-break. So that'll settle them well for the game against Kilkenny, and Shawnee, I suppose, will be looking to avenge his singles defeat when he gets into that doubles final. And that's coming on the back of Saturday, where we've not only the senior ladies final, but the masters men of Shane Walsh from Tuamgraney and Mike Baker from Kilkishen will be up against Wexford in their masters final. And in the first year ever of running a masters ladies, Sheila Sexton and myself will try our hand against a pair from Kilkenny in the masters ladies. Another aspect of the growing game, with numbers from very young to a little bit older playing at all levels.
You slipped that one in nice and quietly.
Well, it's only nice and quiet. I suppose the ladies' game has grown massively, and in Clare it has grown hugely in the last 2 years, with huge numbers playing the mothers and others and ladies' challenger grades. And I suppose they've gone from where it's been a nice little get-together of an evening to adding the bit of a competitive edge to it. And especially after Clare hosting the She's Ace just over 12 months ago. So those numbers have gone. The Clare ladies have a ladies league going now to bring that competitive edge. And there was 2 Clare ladies pairs in the Munster Championship, and they'll go out now and face Kilkenny in a final, so we're trying to represent all the ladies.
Fantastic stuff. I'm looking forward to the non-biased report of that one coming back anyway.
Well, we can only go out and try to miss the ball a little bit less than we normally do.
Fantastic stuff. No, really, really busy weekend ahead, and we'll wrap it all up again next Monday indeed. So, Orla, to you and to everybody else, we wish them all the best of luck, and thanks for having a chat with us.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks very much.
More to come. Do stay tuned. Now, soccer is up next here on Sideline View, where it is that time of the year where we have midweek games to review and weekend games to preview, and our man Jim Madden is with us to do just that. Jim, we had 3 games on Wednesday evening there. A 6-1 victory for Avenue United over Kilrush Rangers. Victory probably was predicted, the margin maybe not so much. Innistown's with a good 2-0 win over Fair Green, but I suppose in terms of the title race, Shannontown 3, Tulla United 3. That draw for Tulla has probably now knocked them out of contention for a title tilt. It seems to be a big result.
It is a big result. There's no doubt. And they led quite comfortably in that game, if I remember right. I think they led nearly 2-0 or 2-1. I think they may have even led at one stage, maybe 3-1. Yes, it's going to make life very difficult, because to win the league now, they need Newmarket to be beaten maybe more than once, and I don't see that happening, as the fella says, anytime soon. Avenue have really put themselves back into the race as well. They're a point behind Newmarket, but they have a game more played, and the Bridge are on 30 points, and they have two games in hand on Avenue, which means that if they win their games, they could still be in contention as well.
Yeah, so as we say, we'll be keeping a close eye on that, and indeed 2 significant games again in the title race in the Premier Division this weekend, which we'll talk about in just a moment. But I guess it's the Enniscarpets Clare Cup quarter-finals, Jim, this weekend, both of them taking place on Saturday evening. They're the big draw.
They are indeed, and there's no doubt that the Rosslevin game will attract a very big crowd for Avenue versus Tulla. Tulla will be up for this in a big way, because they'll feel that they got to the cup final last year, they really enjoyed it, and they just didn't make it. They were beaten 1-0 in the final. But Avenue are in fine form at the moment, and back earlier in the season in the league, Tulla felt that they should have got more out of the game against Avenue. However, I feel that with Avenue, the form they're in at the moment, and I think they're just at the top of their game, really. And I think with home advantage, I nearly see them to get a home win there to go through to the semi-final.
The other game then is in Innistown CBS, Sporting Innistown versus Shannontown B, and of course the 2 winners of this weekend's quarterfinals, they meet in the semi-final. We've Newmarket and the Bridge in the other one, so 2 very significant games. And I guess for Sporting or Shannontown B, Jim, to get to a cup semi-final would signify quite a good run.
It would indeed, and I think though that Sporting Innistown with home advantage and with the pitches and all now drying out and in very good condition, I would imagine that Sporting will be at full strength, will be really up for this game, and I think they should be able to take care of Shannontown B. After all, they are a B team, and so I would fancy Sporting Innistown to win that game there and go through to the semi-final.
Yeah, as we say, Rosslevin, the venue for Avenue and Tulla at 6:30, and Innistown CBS is listed as the venue for Sporting Innistown and Shannontown B. Both of those 6:30 on Saturday evening. Also on Saturday evening, Jim, 2 Premier Division games at 5:30, including a big one in Lynch Park.
Yes, indeed. Shannontown against Newmarket Celtic. Now, Town got a point in that 3-3 draw, as we said, against Tulla, but I think this is a hell of a lot of a different challenge. Newmarket will see that all they need to do really is keep picking up the points, and I can't see Newmarket slipping up in this game. They will be, I would imagine, at nearly full strength. Owen Hayes probably a little bit doubtful, because he does seem to have a bit of a calf injury or something like that, but they still have enough to, I think, get them over the line there and keep them comfortably at the top of the table. The other game is also very, very important, because the Bridge cannot afford to slip up in their run to keep the pressure on at the top. And I think Fair Green are just very disappointing at the moment. And I think the Bridge will win that and keep themselves in step in the top 3 as well.
And it also seems like a big game for the Bridge as well, Jim, because I know one of the cliches maybe we trot out is that a cup run can be a fresh break from a league standing. But I suppose at this time of the year, when you're going for a title, when you're eyeing up all your rivals around you, you need to keep winning, whether that's league or cup, don't you? And particularly with the Bridge knowing Newmarket are coming down the line, if they slip up here, it could even be a psychological advantage, albeit in a different competition.
Yes, indeed. There's no doubt that the Bridge have, at the start of the season, really did feel that they could challenge for both the Cup and the League. The League is going to be a little bit dodgy for them and maybe a bit difficult, but they will see that on one-off games they are capable of producing a match, and they have a good, strong squad as well. So I think that they will beat the Fairgreen. And then I think that in the Cup semi-final, that will be a massive game when it comes up in a couple of weeks' time.
Yeah, really looking forward to that one. A couple of games in the First Division as well, Jim, there on Saturday evening.
Yes, indeed. Shannon Olympic at home to Moher Celtic. Now, Moher are second to Newmarket B in that league. And I think if Moher have any ambitions to be a force in the Premier League, they have to be winning these games. And of late, they seem to be quite strong as well and have a fairly strong squad. I would imagine that while Olympic will give them one hell of a game, I think Moher should be too strong there and win that. In the other game in the First Division, Connolly Celtic are at home to Shannon Hibs. Now, Shannon Hibs are third in that division. Shannon Hibs will have to win this game if they want to make sure that they are any kind of get any kind of players involved for next season. Connolly having a good run at the moment, but I can see Hibs winning that there.
We'll switch then very quickly to Sunday. Just a couple of fixtures, one in the Premier and the first that we'll talk about. At St. Flannan's, Ennisdons hosting Kilrush Rangers. The Kilrush lads coming in for a 10:30 kickoff.
Yes, indeed, and Kilrush having a very disappointing season. I've been surprised at how poor their results are. While Ennisdons went through a rocky patch some weeks ago, but they seem to got back on track and they won again in midweek. And I think that they might just have a little bit too much for Kilrush in that game there. And then in the First Division, we have Ferden Celtic versus Manus. Manus are also finding the going very tough this season. I think they're bottom of that division. Ferden Celtic, a good, strong team, and I think that they will win that there.
Fantastic. And then there's a couple of games midweek next week, which we might talk about on Monday evening show. One of them jumps off the page in particular at McDonough Park on Wednesday. Newmarket against Tulla in the league as well. So lots and lots to look forward to. So as ever, Jim, we thank you for looking ahead, and on Monday we'll review it all.
Yes, we might just have a quick word, Derek, about the women's in the women's Munster Shield. Hermitage, who are a very strong side, are at home to Peak Villa from Thurles, and I think Hermitage will win that. And then in the women's league, there should be a cracking game in Tulla when Tulla host Moher Celtic. So, Derek, at the women's game is growing, and they're very competitive games as well.
Certainly is. I think the cup final around the corner as well, so we might get a chat with somebody on that maybe for next week as well. Jim, thanks for that.
Okay, thanks, Derek.
Now, this Sunday in Doonbeg we'll see the Mick Egan 4-mile road race taking place, and please God the weather is going to play ball, looking like it will anyway, in the Long Village. Delighted to have Brian Egan with us on the line to tell us a little bit more about this. It has become a staple, Brian, I guess, of Doonbeg over the last couple of years. In memory of Mick, of course, tell us all about him.
Yeah, so Mick was my father. Mick Egan, he was... I suppose he devoted 25-30 years of his life, the last 25-30 years of his life, into developing underage talent in West Clare, whether it was football or athletics, and it was something that he was extremely passionate about. And Mick passed away 5 years ago in March, and the following year we held a run. It was supposed to be a one-off event just to mark his passing, and we're now in the 5th year of it. It has been a great event. It grew from strength to strength over the last few years. And we're looking forward to the sunshine on Sunday and a great day of running and walking and getting out for a big community day.
It's a fair testament to, I suppose, both yourselves and his memory as well, that it has grown to what it has become.
Oh, definitely, yeah. There's no doubt about it that it takes work. The first year was a massive event, and like everything else, second year syndrome in the second year, it dropped a small bit, but since then it has really kind of took flight, and a lot of that is just down to the people of West Clare, the people of Doonbeg, the people of St. John's. Like St. John's takes in a big area, Kilkeo, Curry's, Nivone, Doonbeg, and many more have ran for St. John's. And it kind of epitomises the community that's there in West Clare, really, yeah.
It's a 4-mile road race along a beautiful scenic route. Take us along it.
Yeah, it's a beautiful route. It's a flat race for all those people that are looking for good times. For those people that are just out looking for a nice leisurely run on a Sunday, it's perfect. We head west from Doonbeg village. We start in the village. We head west past the football field in Doonbeg. We turn left then on what's called the Pownicole Road, and we come back then onto the Doonbeg-Kilrush Road, where the wind is generally at your back. You're in top flight, 2 miles to go, and come back into the village, and we finish outside Tuberty's, and David there will have all the refreshments there ready for everyone when they finish the race.
I've always held David and Tommy and Suzanne and all the Tuberty family as great business people, but they've even managed to get a road race finishing outside where there's a thirsty crowd ready. That's some going now.
Yeah, look, you couldn't be up to the Tuberties anyway. Yeah, they're brilliant, and what I can say to them, they're brilliant to sponsor us too. There's David and Tommy will have the goujons on there, ready to feed people afterwards, and all our hostings will be done in there afterwards. And we'll have the tea out there and sandwiches as well, for people that are just out for a nice social event, ready for you when you finish the race at Tuberties. Yeah.
Yeah, it's no harm to give them the club because they're our bosses here on Sideline View as well. They're our sponsors, so we have to give them as much plugging as we can, of course, and delighted to do so. The proceeds, as you said, going to St John's Athletics Club and Doonbeg GA. There's also cash prizes on the day as well to be given out, and take us through the various categories.
Yeah, so there's the main event obviously is your senior women's and senior men's race, and there's cash prizes going for both of those. The last few years, their running has been phenomenal. Chris Yunkin of Durg AC won it last year in time in 1928. Like for anyone who knows anything about running, that is just phenomenal. And Jake O'Regan was second last year, and I think Jake is really going for the crown this year. He's a St John's athlete. Then we've other ones there. There's an under 16 event, which is a 3.5k run. It's a bit shorter. We have which are walkers will do that 3.5k route as well. There's under 20s, under 30, over 35s, over 45s, and over 55s, with medals going for each one of those. Yeah.
Fantastic stuff. So finally then, for people that want to register, I know there's an Event Master link. You can check it out there on, I know the Doonbeg Twitter page has it up anyway. You'll find it on social media as well. But people that want to register on the day, Brian, what time should they be aiming to be in the Long Village?
So if you'd like to register on the day, you'd want to be there probably between 11 and half 11. We'll probably close registration at half 11 on the day. It just makes sure that we can all get on and getting ready to go for 12 o'clock. We've James Sexton there on registration. He's a fantastic man. He's brilliant for running events like this. But just if we could get everyone maybe registering online, it would be the best way to do it. And then if you can't do that, just be there on the day nice and early, get warmed up and be ready to go for 12 o'clock.
Mighty stuff. And as you say, the Tuberties then will have the bottles of pop ready to go when you're finished the race as well. So a mighty day in store. Fantastic stuff, Brian. Listen, continued success with it. Fair play to everybody involved, and hopefully another big one ahead.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Derek.
Time now for Greyhound Focus and Alan Troy.
Clare FM's Greyhound News with Galway Greyhound Stadium. The ultimate night out for hens and stags. Enjoy racing and a choice of dinner or group admission packages.
A very good evening and welcome to this week's Greyhound Focus. On Saturday evening last, Limerick Greyhound Stadium was packed to the rafters for the final of the Con and Anne Kirby Memorial, which is kindly sponsored by JP and Noreen McManus, and some of the best K9 athletes in the country were in action. The honour of this year's champion went to the English-owned Bouncing Monarch, who was trained in Tipperary Town by Michael O'Donovan, and he won the final in a scintillating 27.77. Also on the card was the final of the Sean O'Connor Memorial A1, and which took place with a winner's purse of €5,000. And there was delight for Ballyea native Albert Long and Kilmahel man John Collins when Brickhill Moana led her competitors a merry dance to land the spoils in 28-24. The 0-0 syndicate, comprising of Quilty's Nicholas O'Dwyer, Coraclare's Joe Kelly, and Tullabrack's Michael Liam, Tricia and Colin Fitzgerald, have been living in dreamland with the exploits of their star performer Termana Dream, who has proven to be one of the standout performers over the sprint distance nationwide. And this son of Ballyhimmican Jet and Termana Jetty won the Dyno Blue Open 350 in a fantastic time of 18:49. From Thursday's SIS meeting, Aqua Manolia recorded her 6th career victory for Tulla's Michael McNamara in 29.63. And a double was completed for the McNamara kennel when her little brother Red Bud stormed home to claim his 7th career win in 29.15. And the Peter Russell from Shannon-owned Killarus Jet notched his 5th career success in 29 seconds. A son of Ballyhimmican Jet and Kishlawn Amelia, he is trained by Donny Duggan. And from Galway Greyhound Stadium, with the Ladies International Rugby match on Saturday evening, racing was only held on Friday last. And the concluding feature, an A4 graded contest, was won by Liscannor trainer Declan McDonough with No Fork and Chance in 29.21. It was career win number 4 for this son of Ballyhimmican Jet and Raha Gogo. That's all for this week, folks. Slán agus Bannock.
Clare FM's Greyhound News with Galway Greyhound Stadium. The ultimate night out for hens and stags. Enjoy racing and a choice of dinner or group admission packages.
Alan, thanks as ever for that. That's where we have to leave you for this week's Sideline View. The West Wind is up next here on Clare FM. Enjoy the rest of your Friday evening.